Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to Poland Weekly Business Focus program. Improving Poland's perception on the international arena may have a significant impact on attracting foreign private investors. It's my great pleasure to have today in the studio Fredrik Udd, Managing Director at Explore Markets. We're going to talk about the dynamics of investment interest in Poland. Improving Poland's perception on the international arena, both politically and economically, may have a significant impact on the attractiveness of Poland on the international arena. So I think it's always good to talk to the international experts who came to Poland, they see the potential in our country, and they can talk about it to encourage others. Today my guest is Fredrik Udd, Managing Partner at Explore Markets, and we're going to talk about the investment climate in Poland. Good morning, first of all. Good afternoon.
Morning. Good afternoon.
Yes. Well, maybe before we start talking about our topic of today's investment, can you tell us a few words about yourself and the company?
Sure. So my background is I'm Swedish. I run a company in Poland since quite many years. It's called Explore Markets. We're working with international companies and mainly companies from Scandinavia, since I'm Swedish. So that comes quite natural. And helping them to enter and grow and navigate on the Polish market and Central Eastern Europe. So that's mainly what we're doing.
And you have very global perspective because you were, of course, originally from Sweden, moved to Poland, but also then moved to another continent.
I did, yeah. So I spent some time in different countries.
So you have insights, from different angles. That's very interesting for our discussion. Okay, so from your perspective, if you could say what are the dynamics currently on the Polish market looking at the investment, Because on one hand we've been seeing for the last few years the increase in FDIs. On the other hand, of course, we can see a lot of challenges and maybe bigger question in terms of the strategic moves. So how do you see it from your perspective?
Yeah, I think it's always important to keep up with what's happening on the market with the current trends, etc. But I always, when I speak to investors or companies who are thinking about entering the market, I always try to take a step back to see the long-term trends and long-term trajectory of the market. And if you compare Poland now with Poland that existed 20, 30 years ago, it's just mind-blowing what's happened and it's like two totally different worlds. So I think that's a good starting point. And I myself, I carried out my first assignment in Poland in 2002. So I worked at the paint factory in Włocławek for an international multinational company that had acquired a paint factory there. And this paint factory was, as many other companies, struggling, high working capital, which was something that we focused on there. And if you looked at Poland then, that was 2 years before Poland entered the EU. And a lot of things were a little bit depressing almost. And you could see that a lot of the factories that existed before, they had to close down because they were not profitable. And also you saw in Włocławek, which was not Warsaw, of course, but you saw factories or companies that had closed down, factories, buildings that were in ruins, extremely high unemployment. So it was a little bit depressing. Then I had the opportunity 4 years later to move to Poland and mainly to work with Swedish companies who were entering and growing on the Polish market. And Poland then, 2006, that was 2 years after Poland entered the EU, and it was extremely dynamic. And every day when you walked around in Warsaw or other cities in Poland, you saw things happening. You saw new stores opening, you saw new bars, cafes, restaurants opening, new buildings being built. So it was an extremely dynamic time with lots of things happening, but lots of things had to happen as well because Poland was going through a very quick development and had lots of things to improve. And then again, I spent 4 years outside of Poland until 2011. So I was in South America for 4 years. Then I came back to Poland 2011 when Poland just was organizing Euro 2012 together with Ukraine, which was a major event, of course. And as I remember it, there were lots of investments in infrastructure, especially, and of course the football stadiums that were built and being renovated, but also everything else in terms of infrastructure, roads, railroads, new airports or new terminals, hotels, of course, to facilitate all the guests that were coming. So Poland took one more leap forward there. And since then, I've lived in Poland for 13 years, and this development has really continued. So you can see the entire society keep on changing. Of course, when you're not away, then you don't have the chance to sort of see the big change that happened, the big transformation that happens. But you notice all the time that things have changed. And I must say that I feel privileged to experience this entire growth and development of Poland to what it is today. And then coming back to your question, a little bit,
what can we predict out of that?
and what my view is, what has happened over the past few years. I think it's very important, as I mentioned, to keep track of that, and to especially when it comes to short-term, maybe tactical decisions or timings to enter the market or to invest in the market. It's important to see that. But if you're looking ahead, do I believe that Poland is going to continue to develop in a positive way? Certainly, yes. And you can see that in terms of investments, the Polish strength and attractiveness as a destination for foreign direct investment, it's strengthening. Last year was a tough year for the entire world, but Poland is a top 15 country in the world when it comes to the rankings, and Poland shows a resilience and does not lose a lot of investment volume, even though the investment climate globally might take a little bit of a hit. And at the same time, you have a domestic demand that's very strong, and consumption and consumer sentiment that's very strong in Poland now. So I think it's a good time for Poland.
I mean, every country is of course trying to attract investors. So what do you think is currently, I mean, looking at the energy prices, at the cost of labor force, what is actually something that attracts and make people, I mean, even if we talk about this nearshoring, so we are not only talking about the investments from around the European Union, but also outside from Asia and so on. So what actually attracts capital to Poland?
Yeah, I think both attracting capital, so in terms of investments, but also attracting businesses that can be small companies as well, because the majority of companies, if you look at the numbers, are of course small and medium-sized companies who are coming to Poland, and likewise Polish companies expanding internationally. Many of those are
slowly,
small and medium-sized.
Yes, they are.
But I think in terms of the Polish attractiveness, it's a little bit the same that I would have said a few years ago. First of all, the market size. If you look from a European perspective, Poland is a large country, and in Central Eastern Europe, it's the clear regional leader. So I think it's a big country. You can also see the growth of the country. If you compare the growth in Poland for many years now, over the last 20, 30 years, it's been super stable. And compared to all other European countries, Poland is outperforming all other countries in terms of growth stability. And likewise, if you compare it to sort of large markets internationally or large countries internationally, Poland is also outperforming almost all of them, except China, which has developed more percentage-wise than Poland. But otherwise, Poland stands out in terms of the growth and the stability of the growth. So I think that's very interesting. I think also what I mentioned, that you have an underlying attractiveness in terms of investments. There are different types of support that you can get in terms of as an investor. You also have this strong domestic market that's super attractive to international companies as well. So those things. Then on the other hand, you have a very strong human capital. So you have well-educated people, lots of universities in Poland, and I would say that it's a very strong work ethic in Poland as well. So I think that's something that attracts international companies also.
And when you talk to your Nordics colleagues, this is also something that you have to convince them to, or this is something that is the awareness of this type of magnets is already built.
Yeah, I mean,
especially Tri-City.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody told me once that in Tri-City and the Nordics it's kind of like one almost. Is it something you also see, or just opposite?
I would say yes and no, because of course many people from Sweden, from Scandinavia, have experience from Poland, but I would also say that there are many people who I speak to from international companies, from Swedish companies. They might have been in Poland 15 years ago. They might never have been in Poland. So one of the, if I would say, like recommendations that I always say is to to come to Poland. If you don't have a clear picture of what Poland is, if you have read about Poland in the media, or maybe you were in Poland on some holiday 15 years ago or a weekend 5 years ago, come to Poland. That's the first thing I say. Come to Poland and experience the country firsthand. Be curious, ask questions, and try to meet with people in the business community and try to understand Poland a little bit better. Create some good initial contacts that are valuable later on as well. So I think that's probably the first thing that I say to people who when they are thinking about coming to Poland.
And actually, that's my next question, because about the tips. So you already started with this. So I'm wondering if there are any other tips that you could give.
Yeah, I think then the obvious thing is, of course, to do your homework, which is also that's part of coming to Poland is part of doing your homework. But trying to start to understand the market, that's super important. Understand what your market looks like, what type of customers are on the market, what dynamics are there here, what does the competitive situation look like, because even though the market in most cases is very attractive, it's a big country with good domestic demand, sometimes the competition, the competitive environment can be quite hard as well. And sometimes you have many of your international competitors who are looking at Poland as well because the market is attractive. So that's important to look at the price levels on the market. Sometimes Poland can have a quite high pressure on prices as well. So those things are important to look at, to do your homework.
And with these competitors, it's also sometimes a challenge and sometimes an added value, right? Because I can see, like, I don't know, home appliance sector, actually, because you already have some major players. Actually, for others, it's actually even positive to be around that because of the supply chain and others. So probably it also depends on the sector you are in.
No, certainly. I mean, competition is also it's a sign that the market is there. So for sure, and the competitors can also sort of educate the market. And in some ways, if you don't have any competitors on the market, that can be a sign that it's too early to enter the market, for instance, or the market is not what you believe that it was.
But do you think the main reason for the Nordic investors to come to Poland is because of the access to the big market, or there are other reasons why they are actually looking the opportunities here?
No, I think that's definitely, I would say that's probably the main reason. And 20 years ago, companies were looking at Poland as a low-cost sourcing country. That's not the case any longer. I might come back to that a little bit later as well. But I think that most companies, they see Poland as an attractive location in Europe, and as with a strong domestic market. So you have the combination of the market in Poland, which offers opportunities. At the same time, you have a good location and attractive cost levels still as well. So.
Okay. Yeah. You also mentioned, the proper strategies that you always advise that, you need to have a strategies, maybe with some, time-to-time challenges, of course, additional tactics. But do you have any, like a positive case study that you could share with us that, that you would say that was a good strategy of entering the Polish market with the good benefits, long-term benefits?
Yeah, I mean, I can share some. I like to look at it another way there as well a little bit. I like to see what are some of the big market opportunities and ways to address those. And if you continue to speak about Poland as a nearshoring market, which I think is a super good opportunity for European companies and also for Poland. So we all know that there have been lots of disruptions in supply chains over the past few years. And many companies are thinking about resilience on their supply chains, about regionalization of their supply chains, and trying to find options from maybe having all of their supply chain outsourced to Asia or to China. And I think Central Eastern Europe as a whole is a beneficiary of this. So it's going to be a winner of this trend, and is already a winner of this trend. And Poland as the powerhouse sort of the region is the strongest winner, I think. So I think that's a super interesting trend and a super interesting opportunity for European companies. And we have lately worked with a few companies where they have tried to move parts of their supply chain, maybe not everything, but parts of their supply chains from Asia to Poland. And there are lots of different type of companies in Poland, and Poland is, of course, a country where you have lots of contrasts still. And I think that the companies who are successful are the ones who take a sort of a structured approach. They look at the whole market, sort of to see what type of companies are out there, make their long lists, work step by step to understand which companies on this long list that can consist of 200 companies, which of those are potentially relevant to work with, and then step by step try to evaluate those companies and coming to meet those companies on site and doing factory visits and initiating business negotiations. So I think those companies that are structured in that way, they benefit from this trend, and they are successful as well on the market. So that's what we can see.
But I also think that, in terms of networking and facilities, like Scandinavian Chamber of Commerce is very active. So I think that there is already so many investors that it's really easy to ask somebody, right, and get advice.
Yeah, certainly, yeah. Yeah, and there are many companies which have lots of experience now from international cooperation. So I think that is something that you can benefit of course, from if you're networking in the right environments, certainly.
So what's your outlook, looking at all what you've said already? And of course, you stated already that you think that the next years will be another golden maybe decade for Poland.
Yeah.
But any specific trends, any sectors, anything that maybe Poland should take care of now? Because of course we are trying to attract others as well, yes? So like even with this battery and mobility system, we were number 2, now we are number 3, maybe we'll get number 4. So, nothing is for granted, right?
No, sure.
So what's your takeaway and outlook?
Yeah, I think in general, Poland, lots of things have happened over the past 20 years. We're not going to see exactly the same development going forward, but I think the long-term trajectory going forward is going to be positive. So is Poland going to develop positively? Yeah, for sure. I'm certain about that. In terms of sectors that are interesting, I think Poland is a very versatile and diversified economy. So there are opportunities in many sectors. I think if you look at these trends as the nearshoring trend, Poland is a strong manufacturing country. I think manufacturing accounts for something like a little bit over 20% of GDP. And that is something that's both interesting from a nearshoring perspective, but also if you're a supplier of what is called Industry 4.0 solutions, so automation solutions, robotization, and also energy efficiency solutions for the industry. I think that's an opportunity to be part of the Polish entire manufacturing sector. I think if you look at e-mobility, that's interesting from several perspectives. First of all, the Polish entire sort of e-mobility ecosystem becoming an e-mobility hub in Europe. I think that's an opportunity to be part of. I also think that looking at the consumer trend and also heavy vehicles being more and more electrified, that's also a trend which is interesting to benefit from. So I think that charging infrastructure has started to develop in Poland, but I think it's a great timing to be part of building the charging infrastructure in Poland, which is still a little bit less developed than what it should be, because you can really see the number of electric vehicles taking off. So I think that's a very important or an interesting sector as well. Then another opportunity that I think is very interesting is within M&A. I know that you have discussed M&A here before, and I think that the trend, the growth of Polish M&A over medium, long term and short term as well looks very positive. And there are fantastic acquisition targets in Poland. I would almost say they are the best acquisition targets you can find in Europe. There are many, first of all, there are many companies in Poland. There are many well-run companies that are growing, that have strong technology. So that would be very interesting targets for international companies who want to invest in companies in Poland. And at the same time, Poland is facing what I call the great succession. So there are more than 800,000 family-owned, family-run companies in Poland. And some research show that more than half of those are likely facing succession within the next 5 years. And most of those companies are facing succession for the first time, which means that they might not have a plan for what's coming after the founder is leaving the company. So I think this is both an opportunity, it's a challenge for those companies, it's an opportunity for an increase in transaction volumes in Poland. So I think that's quite interesting as well.
That's interesting. We didn't talk about this angle of mergers and acquisitions, so that's very interesting takeaways. Okay, I think that's all very interesting, and I think that the most important tip I would say, and I would agree, is to come to Poland.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah. That's really, I think, as I said in the introduction, I think that Poland is still really not doing ideal, work in terms of attracting, building international image. And apparently somehow those who came to Poland from abroad or stayed here, and are successful are the best ambassadors of Poland. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure we have quite a lot of those ambassadors around the world, also in the Nordics. So hopefully that will pay off for both sides, yes, because I think nowadays, wherever you are based here or there, it's all about collaboration. And I think, it's very important to, make it happen in a way that our shareholders benefit.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that Polish companies are becoming more experienced when it comes to international business as well. So that's very important. And also Polish companies are investing internationally. So you can see, if you look at Polish investments the other way abroad, are increasing quite rapidly. So I think that it's all a sign that Poland is a country that's increasing in importance when it comes to international business and international investments.
And the business culture, I think, is also very important in terms of, I can imagine that 30 years ago it was quite difficult to speak, let's say, the same language in a way, to discuss business matters. Yes, and I think that it has changed probably also, right, in terms of sitting together at the table. And
certainly, there are still cultural nuances that you need to navigate, and it's always good to be aware of those. And but on the other hand, a lot of Poles have international experience. Are more Polish managers are more like international managers now than they were 20 years ago. So I think it's definitely it's a much less of a cultural difference now, but it's still important to recognize those nuances that there are and to take interest in Polish culture as a whole and the country.
Okay, so we invite you to come to Poland and see yourself, definitely. And if you have questions, there are many experts who can help you and assist. Thank you very much for the discussion.
Thank you very much.